your Monday Mindset Moment. I'm the founder of Raising Our Resilience, Vanessa Callahan. Make a difference in daily life for parents and children. I have someone tuning in here on Zoom with the name Lions. Maybe say hello, let us know where you're tuning in from, the ages of your kids, and what you'd like to get out of today, why you're here. Same goes on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. We also have Kevin joining us. Hi, Kevin. Welcome. So why are we looking at ways of motivating kids that have less rewards and punishments? Why are we hoping to smooth out daily life with kids? Well, maybe you're here because you feel like there are tools and strategies that would make things easier, and you're just hoping to fill up your toolbox and have some tips to try, a place to get started, a next thing, right, that you can try on and see what happens with your child or children. Maybe things are really painful and tough right now, and you just would like a lifeline. We were talking to a family this morning where, the child woke up kicking and screaming, and mother was really triggered and had a challenging time navigating those big emotions. And we got on a session and got them to a place that was feeling less painful and more hopeful about how we can really get on the same team and support each other as co-parents and or a same team with our kids. Whatever's bringing you in today, just know you're in really good company. I've had conversations with thousands of parents over the last several years, but especially, 20 years. Looking at ways to build our resilience and get on the same page with our kids and other caregivers so that daily life can be easier. I mean, parents really deserve this mentorship. It's something that we give, trainings on to preschool teachers, to elementary school teachers, to counselors. Anybody who works with children goes through a pretty rigorous training process to fill up your toolboxes with strategies that are really effective. So why wouldn't parents get that too? So that's what we're here to do today, give you something else to put into your toolbox. And if this format is too quick and too short and it doesn't give you everything you need and want to know that we have longer programs, our cohort is open for our year-long program right now and closes on February 15th. So if that's something that you want to talk about and want to learn more about, you're going to need to be in touch with me as soon as possible. And we can help you with your decision about whether or not to join. Okay, so today's tip, connecting before correcting. This is something that stood out so much to clients over the years that it's so worth highlighting. And it comes from a body of work called Positive Discipline by Jane Nelson and her colleagues. And the piece that comes out the most for me is that it's basically a kind of relational motivation. Relational motivation, meaning that in that relatedness piece where, we feel connected up, we're much more likely to receive information about transitioning or cleaning something up or stop hitting and use your words instead. Yeah. And so when we connect before we correct or direct or redirect, it really makes that difference. One thing we all need to know is that children are very much in their own little bubbles. They are hardwired to focus on whatever their interest is pointing at the time, wherever their attention is. And one of the main mistakes we want to avoid is assuming that children can quickly transition from whatever they're focusing on to what you want them to focus on. So there's nothing else that you take away today. Consider that when you want your child to change modes, transition, do something differently than they're already doing, you're going to want to connect with them first and really help them switch into that new mode or switch to having any interest or desire to, for example, put on their shoes and put down the Legos. Yeah. So when you connect before you correct, you're also doing something to build up your relationship. John Gottman and his associates have said, they're relationship researchers, and they've studied what goes well in good relationships, like what is present in relationships that those relationships that make them stand out. And there are many things, but one that stood out to me that they discovered was this ratio, this idea of a ratio of positive to negative interactions that is required for a relationship status to be considered in the positive. And first they looked at romantic relationships and it was like 10 to 1. But they said for other relationships, parent to child, peer to peer, work relationships, other family relationships, it can be more like 4 to 1 positive interactions to 1 negative. So when we connect before we correct, what we're doing is we're also helping to feed that ratio. For example, if you have a manager at your job, let's say theoretically, right, who comes into the room and the first thing they do is they make a demand, they tell you what you did wrong, or they ask you to jump up and do something different than what you're doing right now. And they do that 1, 2, 3, 4 times a day. And at the end of the day, they say, hey, thanks so much for your work today. And then you go home. Now, it was nice to get that little praise or, acknowledgement at the end of the day. And sometimes we can just as adults, put into context. Oh, it's a busy season. This is our time when we're slammed. Of course, they're just, trying to get things done. We can do that, but children don't necessarily have the ability, especially under age 7.5, which is when it really shows up biologically, neurologically, to take perspective like that. Oh, let's put this into context. So for them, think of your child coming in, or you coming into your child's space, into their reality, their little bubble, and you're directing, requesting, and asking them to just drop what they're doing and do something else. How might they perceive that and then you say one thing at the end, thank you so much for helping, making the day better. I don't know that it lands the same way for a young person as it does an adult, but one thing that they would have in common is that when you come in the room, they might go, oh, what do you want? Or they might also ignore you because they're like, oh gosh, this person again, this person wants something from me, or they haven't really gotten my full attention, right? Either way, it starts to tip the ratio the wrong way into the negative, right? Where I had a dad who used to walk into the room and his kid would look at him and go, what do you want? What? Immediately. He didn't even say a word, just his presence prompted this what response. And you can imagine, even with that manager, that busy day, you're like, oh boy, here he comes again. What does he want, right? Or you might try to tune them out and kind of do this thing where you're protective, right? I'm in my thing, you're going to need to wait at the door. I'm not even answering you until you actually say hello, or you're going to make you wait for a minute. So that's what kids will do. Now, if we flip that though, and a 4-to-1 ratio of connection before correction, direction, or redirection, or transition, think of the adult version of that. Manager comes in, hey, how are you today? Oh my gosh, it looks like you had time to go get your favorite beverage, down the street. What'd you get today? Was it that one? Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, me too. It's even 2 little interactions, right? And then maybe a sharing of some kind, well, we've got a really busy day ahead. How does your day look? A little exchange of information. And then lastly, maybe something well, maybe a heads up or a, hey, let's help each other out today kind of message could be really positive too, right? Connection. Hey, let's look out for each other today. I know that we're slammed, but let's see how we can help each other out. And then they come in the door next and they say, so this is going on. I need you to take this phone call. Sorry, could you mind dropping everything and grabbing this call? You're probably going to be like, okay, sure. There's this sort of connection to the context of the request. There's a connection, I'm a person, you're a person. We both have things and needs and wants and desires here, and a sense of teamwork. So we can do that with our kids too, by connecting before correcting. And my recommended ratio follows along the lines of the research is 4-to-1. 4-to-1 positives to every negative or every corrective or directive kind of thing that might be taken negatively. So how it could look with a young kid is getting down at their level and just putting your hand on their back, especially if they're a physical touch kid. They love that. That's a connection right there. You just took the time to get down at their level. Asking a curious question about what they're up to, oh, what happens in this part of the game? Or, oh, I saw you use the blue one here. Why'd you do that? Or, oh, what's going on with your socks right now? Whatever it is. And wait and let them answer, and let's start a conversation so you're connected up, right? And the older the kids are, the more sensitive they are to whether or not you get it, what is going on. So this can even take a longer format where you really wait till you see that they see that you understand the situation, and then you give a suggestion, because we are so quick to give our teens and tweens advice before they're ready for it. It's like the habit I want you to break immediately if you're in this loop of just telling them what they should do, or giving them, a suggestion right away, or fixing it for them and then telling them that you fixed it. Slow it down, connect with them, make sure that you and they both see that you get it, whatever it is, you get it, how their teacher teaches and why it's frustrating. You get it that their friends aren't responding and it's making them anxious, and how you can feel that way too. You get it, right? Get that message across. I get it. I get it. Now, if you want something that's like very step by step, go back to the last training. It's in the Facebook group. It's on our YouTube channel. You can, go ahead and scroll around and find it. It's called, or search for Steps to Winning Cooperation. There's a 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to kind of connect up that could give you those 4 positives to 1 negative if you want that specific like steps. But the spirit of what I'm sharing with you right now is the takeaway. Connecting before correcting can actually save you time, smooth out your relationships, and help bring in some intrinsic motivation. That's like from that relational motivation, like we're on the same page now. I exist in your world. I got into the bubble of your attention. And now when I say something, you actually hear it. It's so worthwhile doing. Connecting before correcting. So yeah, imagine a scenario. You come up and you say, hey, hun, I see that you're like, oh, I see you playing with Legos. Tell me what you're working on. And they share a little bit with you, and you say, oh, and you ask one more question and maybe offer them a compliment of some kind. Like, oh, it looks like you built a little border here. That's like such a nice way to set up your Lego piece, like your Lego scene. And then they're like, yeah, because then, this and this and that. And like, now you're on a roll, you're connected up, you're synced up. It can take 30 seconds to 5 minutes, friends. So much better than dragging your kid through whatever it is you're trying to get them to do, and getting frustrated, and even maybe getting to the point where it's escalating and you're having meltdowns, tantrums, power struggles. And I don't just mean child meltdowns, tantrums, right? We can too. We can lose our cool. So connecting before correcting. Now, I would love to hear from you all. One example of a way, and I want you to take this away. One example of a way that your child just loves to be connected with, whether it's reading a book together, or, physical touch and snuggle, whether it's building something together, or it's listening to a podcast together, a science podcast, and geeking out on it, and then doing some research on some YouTube videos, or, in an encyclopedia. What is one thing right now? And I'm asking Kevin and Lyons who's here, and anyone who's also tuning in on the Facebook group. I want to hear an example of how you can connect with your child that they'll really receive well. Okay, drop it in the chat, and I've got something for you. As soon as you do it, I've got a little insight that I'm going to share with you if you participate. If you're not participating, then we won't get as much out of this piece. So please just go ahead and drop a word or a phrase or a sentence into the comments. Here on Facebook, we've got some folks that might be listening to the replay. So just put replay and drop in what you know is a go-to connection strategy for your kids. And while you're doing that, I'm going to share some examples straight out of our Facebook group, because I think it's important for you to hear like real examples. Because this is a question we ask in the welcome post in our Facebook group. We're like, what are your go-to ways to connect with your kids? And it wasn't by accident that we asked that question. Because what we're noticing is that when we really do tune into the ways that they like to connect, we can start to build this 4-to-1 ratio, and it's a pretty big deal. So like for me, with my 8-year-old now in the household, she and I really geeked out on the Avatar, The Last Airbender. And anytime I bring that up, she lights up, and I've got her full attention. We can geek out about it for a minute or two, and then talk about, when are these toys going to get cleaned up? And isn't it time for us to get ready for bed? Things like that. I've got like Terry here said that playing at the neighborhood park, taking a walk, sharing a snack, singing during bath time, all ways that they connect. Got Eve Diamond here saying camping, skiing, campouts with her 9.5 and 2.5-year-olds. Really love to be outdoors, and that's a really big deal for their family. Jimmy, who's also in our year-long immersion, says, that he has noticed that they when they go on long bike rides together and nature adventures, getting out the door, that's been really fun. Also to watch some classic movies together. See these ways that they're connecting up, right? So Kevin says, do some coloring, especially specifically Poppy. Nice. From Trolls. Good. Okay, great. It's great that you have a go-to. That's good. And I would say that falls into the bucket of probably her strength. One of her strengths is creativity. One of her signature character strengths is probably creativity, right? And because of the 24. And then it's combined with quality time, where you're doing this mutual activity and sharing that time together. So I would keep looking for other creative ways to spend quality time together. Yeah. So maybe you can expand the medium, like to painting and pastels, and like explore different things. Maybe you can get into sculpture, some clay. Maybe you can be creative in like coming up with silly jokes at the dinner table or something before you tell her, now it's time to eat those vegetables you really don't like. So riff with those two pieces together, Kevin. That's my insight for you, okay? All right. Lion says, my son likes to have a Nerf war with me or his dad, as he is the only child at home. Okay, right. So he's like, you're filling in for that playmate role when there aren't any other kids around and he's not at school. He likes to have popcorn together while watching a movie. Okay. All right. So he probably has like a lot of zest and physical energy. And so I would just keep expanding on ways that you can be in like a very, very interactive game. So like maybe you can expand to all versions of tag. You could just Google like 10 ways to play tag with your kid. There's so many. Statue tag and, all the what, there's so many, I can't even tell you. So like those kinds of games where it's just like kind of chasing in back and forth and like it's really, really active. Maybe build that in before you make another kind of request of something he doesn't usually like. So that's one. Another, so he's a lot of zest. Zest is definitely probably one of his character strengths. And then popcorn together while watching a movie. Okay, great. So yeah, that's called quality time and maybe a gift in a way because you're preparing an act of service because you're preparing something for him. But I would say it could be kind of fun to involve him in the making of the popcorn, and maybe that might lead to some skills or requests that you have around meal times and kitchen behavior, and things like that. Maybe taking some responsibility or helping out with meals and things. You could start him with popcorn making, and then you can also maybe expand on that by playing with different flavors you can put on popcorn, or different ways of preparing it, like microwave it in a brown paper bag experiment, taste test that compared to one made in a pot, and see like what the difference is. Like I'm just riffing here. And this is the reason I'm riffing here is because I want all of you to keep looking for opportunities to expand on what's already working in terms of connecting with your kids. And think that it doesn't have to be relegated to a special time when you only have you have a whole hour or 2 hours to watch a movie. You can do smaller versions throughout the day to connect up before you make those requests or really give them some strong feedback about their behavior. Is this helpful, Kevin and Lions? Nice. Leslie, maybe you'll pop one in before we close up. Welcome. Good to have you here. Anybody on Facebook? Not yet. So go ahead and put the word replay if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube, and drop one way that your child likes to connect, and I would be happy to jam in the comments with you. So connecting before correcting is such a powerful tool. It's one of the foundational pieces, so much so that when we kick off the year-long program, just now we had a session on Saturday to welcome folks in. We can catch you up if you end up joining late, but really we're kicking off right now. And what we did is we went through 10 ways to connect before you correct. And this is like a really robust piece that we need in our lives so that when we're in those tough limit setting moments, we have some sort of relational credit to spend there. So that when we're sitting down and wanting to get your kids' full attention on creating a routine chart together, you know how to get it because you know how to really connect up and sync up with them so that they're participating, their attention is good, and you can get some really good family meeting style work done. So these are really good things to pay attention to. Hopefully this has been helpful to you all. And again, if this is something that you'd really like to explore further, you'd like to see maybe more mentorship and structured learning in your world, we do have a year-long program that we're running right now. That is, the doors close on the 15th. So if something you'd like to explore and check out, please do. The best way you can do that is to go ahead and take our Parenting Strengths quiz, which alone as an exercise is really helpful to even identify what, if anything, you might be focusing on in some mentorship and what tools you might still be seeking. So go ahead and take that quiz, and on there is a link to book with either myself or our coach, Dr. Luce, to have a 30-minute quick conversation and strategy session where we'll give you some more expanded support outside of this format and also see if it's a fit for us to do further work together. We've already talked to over 20 families just this last couple of weeks. We've had several folks, or 5 families already hop into our year-long program or private coaching, and another 10 or 12 families to talk to. So we are going to probably fill up. So this is something that you want, like I would jump on chance now. If it's something that you think you want later, you can still take the quiz and just let us know there and say, this is not maybe the time, but I'd like to hear more about it for the next cohort in July. You could let us know that too. All right, lots of love to everybody. Good luck on your next steps. Let us know how it goes connecting before correcting, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.